I got home before sunset because the meeting ended early on the drive back. I kept thinking about my mother in the guest room, probably folding her church sweater into a neat square, probably pretending she had not spent 4 hours on a bus, just to see me for 3 short days. I even stopped to buy sweetbread because she liked to tear it into small pieces and dip it in coffee. Mom, I called when I opened the front door. No answer. Vanessa, my wife's voice floated from the kitchen. I'm here. Where's my mother? In the back. Something in her tone made my chest tighten. I walked through the laundry room and opened the garage door. My mother sat on an old folding chair beside paint cans and a broken fan. A single bulb hung over her head. In her lap was a plastic plate with cold rice and sliced hot dogs. She looked up fast, like she had been caught doing something wrong. Mom, I said, why are you in here? She gave me that small smile that always meant she was protecting someone. It's fine, Noah. Your wife said I'd be more comfortable here. I looked around at the dusty shelves, the lawn tools, the unopened boxes. Comfortable? It's only for a little while. Did you eat out here the whole time? I didn't mind. I knelt in front of her. Mom, look at me. She did, but her eyes were tired. Please don't start a fight. Behind me, Mrs. Delgado was watering her plants next door. She glanced over through the half-open side gate. She did not say a word, but I felt seen in the worst way. I stood up and walked back inside. Vanessa was wiping a clean counter that did not need wiping. What is wrong with you? I asked. She turned slowly. Excuse me, my mother is eating in the garage. It's only for 3 days. In the garage, Vanessa crossed her arms. Why are you acting like I abused her? I stared at her. You put her beside paint cans. She said she wanted quiet. You know that's not true. And you know I like the house kept a certain way. She is my mother, not dirt you sweep outside. Vanessa's face hardened. Do not talk to me like that. Then tell me why she isn't in the guest room. Because she snores. Noah, because she brings bags and medicine and extra shoes. Because she turns every visit into a move-in. Because I am tired of feeling like this house belongs to everyone except me. I felt my anger rise. But shame rose faster. It's 3 days, and I said yes to 3 days. No. You said yes to humiliating her. She's being dramatic, and so are you. My hands shook. I wanted to shout. I wanted to drag my mother's suitcase into the guest room and tell Vanessa she could deal with it. Instead, I stood there, frozen between the woman who shared my bed and the woman who had given me everything. Vanessa looked past me toward the garage. If she is uncomfortable, she can go to a hotel. I laughed once because it was the only thing that kept me from breaking something. A hotel? You know she would never spend money on that. That's not my problem. The words hit me harder than yelling would have. That night, I carried a tray with warm soup, tea, and bread to the garage. My mother shook her head. Noah, no, I already ate. Eat again. She smiled sadly. You used to say that when you were 10. You'd save me half your sandwich and say, eat again. Mom, I sat on an upside-down bucket. Come inside. I don't want more trouble. You didn't cause it. She touched my wrist. Don't fight for me. If it will break your home. Her voice was so soft I almost hated her for making pain sound normal. What kind of home breaks because a mother needs a bed? She looked away. The kind that was already cracked. I had no answer. Later, I found Vanessa placing candles on the dining table. You're decorating, I asked. I'm restoring order. I leaned against the doorway. Order, is that what you call this? I call it boundaries. Clean floors, house rules, basic respect for shared space. Basic respect would have been giving my mother a chair at the table. Vanessa let out a slow breath. You always make me the villain when your family visits. My family? Yes, Noah. Your family comes in with their shoes, their bags, their food containers, their noise. Then I'm the bad person for not smiling through it. She is one woman with blood pressure pills. She is not the point. Then what is? Vanessa picked up her phone and glanced at it. Tyler needs a place to stay for a short while. I thought I misheard her. Your brother? Yes, the same Tyler who got fired in March. He quit. The same Tyler whose girlfriend threw his clothes on the lawn. She was unstable. I stared at her. So my mother eats in the garage, but your brother gets a room? Don't twist this. I don't need to twist anything. You already said it. Tyler is in a crisis. My mother is 68, and she is only here for 3 days. I laughed again. But this time it hurt. You keep saying that like time changes what you did. Vanessa stepped closer. You need to stop making everything emotional. It is emotional. No, it's practical. Cruelty always sounds practical to the person doing it. Her eyes flashed. Maybe if you made decisions with me instead of dumping guilt into the house, we wouldn't be here. I wanted to answer. But my mother walked in from the garage holding her sweater like she was cold and didn't want to admit it. Please, she said. Enough. Vanessa forced a smile. I was just telling Noah about Tyler. My mother nodded politely as if that was normal. As if she had not just come from a room with a carjack and spider webs. That should have been the moment I chose a side. Instead, I chose silence, and silence always sends its own message. The next morning, I woke to the sound of the front door closing. My mother's blanket was folded on the garage chair. Her bag was gone. I found a note on the kitchen counter. Noah, I raised you to be kind, not weak. Love, Mommy read it 3 times. Vanessa walked in wearing her work blouse. She left early. I looked up. You don't get to sound surprised. She made her own choice. No. She made mine for me because I wouldn't at work. I kept the note in my pocket until the paper felt warm. Marcus noticed before lunch. You look like hell, he said, dropping into the chair across from me. I'm fine. You say that when you're one bad sentence away from snapping. What happened? I pulled out the note and handed it to him. He read it, then looked at me. What did you let happen? Noah, I opened my mouth, but for the first time in a long time, I had no lie ready. Say it, Marcus said. Say what? The part you keep editing. I folded the note. Vanessa made my mother eat in the garage. Marcus stared at me. You're serious? I wish I wasn't. And your mother stayed for 2 nights. Then she left before I woke up. He leaned back. Noah, that's not a bad moment. That's a warning. I know, no. You feel guilty. That's not the same as knowing. I rubbed my face. What was I supposed to do? Throw my wife out over one visit? Marcus lowered his voice. You were supposed to protect the person who would never ask you to. I looked away. He kept going. You always think peace means waiting long enough for the louder person to calm down. That's not peace. That's surrender with nice manners. She's my wife, and Rosa is your mother. I love Vanessa, Marcus nodded. I'm sure you do, but love without spine turns into permission. I held the note tighter. You think I'm weak. I think you've been trained to call your fear patience. That landed hard. He stood and grabbed his coffee. Listen to me. If you go home and act like this is small, it won't stay small. People test the line you draw. If you draw none, they keep walking. I laughed bitterly. Since when did you become wise? Since I watched you excuse things I would never let happen in my house. He put a hand on my shoulder. Call your mother tonight, and when you get home, look around carefully. The first cruelty is never the last one. I watched him leave, with my mother's note still in my hand, and for the rest of the day, his words sat in me like a splinter I could not pull out. For once, saving my marriage felt less urgent than saving my soul. Tyler arrived 2 days later in a bright red truck. That sounded louder than it should have. He walked in grinning, carrying 2 duffel bags and a gaming chair. There he is, he said, slapping my shoulder. My favorite brother. I'm your only brother-in-law, I said. Even better. He dropped his bags in the guest room, the room my mother should have slept in, and looked around like a man checking into a hotel. Nice setup. Hope you don't mind, brother. I just need a reset. I minded everything. I minded his shoes on the coffee table that same night. I minded his beer stacked in my fridge by the next morning. I minded the way he called Vanessa sis in a sweet voice and called me boss man with a grin. That felt like an insult wearing a smile. At dinner he took the last piece of chicken and said, Noah works hard but he worries too much. You can tell by the 4 headlines. Vanessa laughed. I stared at my plate. Good one. Tyler raised his glass. Relax, I'm joking. That's your excuse for everything, I said. Vanessa set down her fork. Can we not start? I didn't start. Tyler leaned back. See, sensitive. After dinner, Vanessa packed Tyler a plate for later. She had not done that for me in months. When I mentioned it in our room, she rolled her eyes. He's going through a lot. So? Was my mother. Why do you keep bringing that up? I turned to her so fast she stepped back. Because it happened. Vanessa's face cooled. Tyler is not your mother. Stop comparing them. I'm comparing how you treat people. I treat people based on how they act. My mother acted grateful while eating in a garage. Vanessa pulled a shirt from a hanger. I am done having this same conversation, but the conversation kept happening in new forms. Tyler borrowed my tools without asking. Tyler left wet towels on the floor. Tyler used my streaming account to rent movies. Tyler complained about my coffee, my rules, my music. My face. One Friday I checked our savings account to pay the property tax and saw the balance was lower than it should have been. I walked into the living room with my phone. Vanessa, why is $1,200 missing? She muted the television. For household needs. What household needs? Groceries, bills, things have names. Tyler looked up from the couch. Maybe don't interrogate your wife like a cop. I ignored him. What was it for? Vanessa stood. You don't trust me now. Answer the question. It was temporary. For what? She glanced at Tyler for half a second. That was enough. I looked at him. Did you take my money? Tyler scoffed. Wow, did you? It was a loan. I laughed. From who? From family. You are not my family when you steal from me. Vanessa stepped between us. He needed help. So did my mother. She clenched her jaw. Not this again. I went quiet then, but it was a different kind of quiet. Before, I stayed silent because I was afraid of conflict. Now I stayed silent because I was listening. I visited my mother the next Sunday in her apartment across town. It smelled like mint tea and laundry soap. She opened the door before I knocked twice. "Noah," she said, smiling too quickly. "You should have called. I wanted to see you." She moved aside. "Then come in." Her hands shook when she poured tea, just a little. Just enough to spill a thin line into the saucer. "Mom," I said, "sit down." "I'm fine." "You're not." She sat. "You look thinner. Don't do that." "Do what?" Turned the worry back on me. She smiled without energy. "It's a mother's habit." I took her to the clinic the next day because she admitted she had been feeling dizzy. Dr. Leah Park was calm and direct. "She needs rest, stability, and peace." The doctor said after checking her chart, stress is making her condition worse. I swallowed hard. "How much worse?" Dr. Park looked at me, then at my mother. "Enough that it matters." On the ride home, my mother kept her eyes on the window. "Mom," I said, "why didn't you tell me?" "Because you were already troubled. I should have protected you. Marriage is hard," she whispered. I gripped the steering wheel. "Don't hate too quickly," she added. I almost laughed at the sadness of it. Even now, she was protecting Vanessa. When I got home, Tyler was in my garage lifting old boxes with music blasting from his phone. "Careful," I said. He smirked. "Why? That garage got your family history in it." I looked at the chair still sitting in the corner and felt something cold move through me. "That night I called Marcus. I need help," I said. He was quiet for a beat. Finally, he came over with coffee and a laptop. We sat at my dining table while Vanessa was at yoga and Tyler was out networking. "Marcus went through the bank records with me. There," he said, tapping the screen. "See that transfer? And that one, same pattern, small enough to hide, big enough to hurt." I stared at the numbers. "She never told me." "Check the credit card too." I did. More charges, cash advances, late fees. Marcus leaned back. "Your house is being drained from the inside." When Vanessa left her phone charging in the bedroom, I did something I had never done before. I opened it. There were messages with Kendra Mills. "Kendra, once Noah sells the house, everything gets easier. Vanessa, he won't move unless I push. Kendra, his mother is the only one who makes him think for himself." I sat on the edge of the bed, staring until the words blurred. My mother was not just unwanted, she was in the way. Marcus read the screen over my shoulder and muttered, "That's not marriage, that's a setup." The next morning I met Nina Alvarez in a small office that smelled like paper and lemon polish. She read the copies I brought and folded her hands. "Do not confront them yet. So I just live with this, asterisk for a little longer, collect everything. Bank statements, screenshots, any threats, any proof of misuse of funds." Quiet is useful when it has a purpose. I nodded. That was the first time silence felt like a weapon instead of a wound. For 2 weeks I said less and saw more. Tyler bragged on the phone about a business comeback that sounded like gambling, with better clothes. Vanessa covered for him every time. "Don't be dramatic, Noah. It's temporary, Noah. You always assume the worst, Noah." I saved screenshots, copied records, changed passwords, and recorded Tyler one night when he was drunken. "The garage." He laughed into the phone and said, "His mom got the garage and I got the room." That's hierarchy, man. I listened to that voice note 10 times. Each time it hurt less and hardened more. Then I planned Sunday dinner. Vanessa loved appearances. Tyler loved an audience. I invited my mother, Marcus, and Mrs. Delgado. When my mother arrived, she hesitated at the front door. "Are you sure?" she asked. "Yes," I said. "Tonight I am." Vanessa wore a soft blue dress and smiled like a magazine ad. "This is nice," she said. "See, we can all be adults." Tyler raised his glass. "To peace." Mrs. Delgado sat quietly, her eyes moving from face to face. Marcus gave me one small nod. I waited until the plates were full. Then I set a stack of printed bank records in the middle of the table. Vanessa blinked. "What is this? The truth?" Tyler laughed. "You're being weird again." I pressed play on my phone. His drunken voice filled the room. "His mom got the garage and I got the room. That's hierarchy, man." The room went still. Vanessa looked at Tyler. "You said that?" He pointed at me. "You recorded me?" "Yes, that's insane." I slid the bank statements toward Vanessa. "So are the transfers." Her face drained. "You invaded my privacy." I almost admired the speed of it, the way she reached for outrage before shame. "You stole from me. It was our money, for your brother. He was in trouble." "My mother was in your garage." Tyler stood so hard his chair scraped the floor. "She's the reason this house is always tense." My mother flinched. Marcus rose halfway from his seat. "Sit down before you say something dumber." Tyler pointed at my mother again. "She walks in here with that sad face and suddenly everyone has to worship her." Mrs. Delgado spoke for the first time. I saw her eating beside a weed trimmer. Vanessa whispered, "Mrs. Delgado, please." "No," I said, "let her speak." Everybody else did. Tyler laughed without humor. What do you want, Noah? A medal for loving your mom? I stood. My hands were steady for once. No, I want my house back. I want my money back. I want the truth. Said out loud. Vanessa's eyes filled with tears. You're humiliating me. I heard my own voice come out low and clear. The reason this house is routine is because I let cruel people stay in it. My mother whispered my name, then her fork slipped from her fingers. Mom, she swayed. I moved fast, but not fast enough. She collapsed before dessert ever touched the table. At the hospital, I sat beside her bed and stared at the blanket rising with each breath. Vanessa called 6 times. On the 7th, I answered. Noah, she said, crying, please talk to me. Asterisk, what do you want? I didn't know it would go like this. You knew enough. I made mistakes. You made choices. She started sobbing. I ended the call. Tyler sent messages all night. You recorded me. You're dead to us. This is your fault. I did not answer him either. The next morning, Nina filed the papers, divorce, financial protection. Notice for Tyler to leave. Are you sure? She asked. I thought of the garage chair, my mother's shaking hands. The note in my pocket. I'm late, I said, but I'm sure. Once the papers were served, everything started breaking at once. Creditors called asking for Tyler. A man came to the door looking for payment on a loan I had never heard of. Vanessa learned the bank would freeze the joint account under review. She found me in the driveway at dusk. Her eyes were red, her voice thin. I made mistakes, Noah, but we can fix this. I looked at her for a long time. You didn't break a plate. You broke trust, dignity, and family. She grabbed my arm. Please. I stepped back. No, the night Tyler was supposed to leave, he came home drunk, kicking at boxes in the garage. You think you won? He shouted. I think you're done. This was never your house. Vanessa built this life, not you. I paid for it. He threw a box at the wall. Money isn't a life, neither is using people. He grabbed the old folding chair and hurled it aside. It hit a work light. The lamp crashed and a small fire jumped up near the wall. For 1 second I just stared. That chair. That corner. That shame. Then I grabbed the extinguisher and killed the flames. Tyler stepped toward me, face twisted. You think calling the cops will make you a man? I pulled out my phone. No, this will. When the officers came, Tyler kept shouting. He stole from me first. He set me up. I'll break his face. One officer turned him around and cuffed him beside the black mark on the garage wall. Vanessa stood in the driveway with her arms around herself. How did it get this far? She asked, almost to the dark more than to me. I looked at the burn mark. It got this far because every time you were asked to choose what was right, you chose what was easy. Months passed. The divorce became final. Tyler was gone. The calls stopped. The house felt quieter, but it also felt honest. And honesty has its own kind of peace. Vanessa sent one last letter. I am sorry. I was selfish. I was ashamed of where I came from and I punished people who reminded me. I know that now. I don't ask to come back. I only ask you not to hate me forever. I read it once and put it away. I forgave her in my heart because I did not want to carry poison any longer, but forgiveness is not the same as return. My mother's health improved slowly. When Dr. Park finally smiled during a checkup, I felt my own lungs open. I spent 2 weekends rebuilding the garage. I cleared the boxes, painted the walls, replaced the light, and put in wide windows. I filled the room with plants, books, and a soft chair by the sun. When I brought my mother over, she stopped at the doorway. Noah. She whispered, what is this? A room with dignity. Tears filled her eyes. You didn't have to do this. Yes, I said, I did. That night I made soup, rice, and fresh bread. I set the table in the kitchen and pulled out her chair before she sat down. She touched my hand. You look different. I smiled, though it hurt a little. I am. She looked around the house. It feels peaceful. I had to learn what peace costs. She squeezed my fingers. And what does it cost? I thought about silence, fear, and all the ways I had hidden from hard truth. It costs the lies you keep to avoid pain. My mother nodded like she understood before I did. We ate at the table together, not in the garage, not in the shadow of somebody else's comfort. Inside the house, where she should have been all along. As I watched her tear bread into small pieces and dip it into her soup, I felt something settle in me at last. I had wanted revenge when the hurt was fresh. I had wanted Vanessa to suffer, Tyler to fall, the whole world to point at them and say, now you know. But in the end, the victory that mattered was quieter. I had stopped being weak. I had chosen my mother before I lost her. I had chosen myself before there was nothing left of me. And for the first time in years, when I looked around my home, I did not feel like a guest in my own life.